What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back. Welcome to another live stream. Here we go, everybody. How is everybody doing here today? Hopefully, everybody's doing great on this beautiful Tuesday. Derek, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing much better. You know, the jitters of having Matt Ryan is kind of settled in a little bit, and certainly much happier. So I'm glad that I can feel some kind of joy once again for being a Colts fan. So I'm happy.
Yeah, no kidding. I feel like that's kind of the sentiment around Colts Nation right now. A lot of people are finally happy with how the Colts are doing, and their new quarterback, Matt Ryan, who they did introduce today as well. And we're going to obviously look at that here just in a minute and kind of react to that. We're also, as a bonus, we didn't put this in the title, but we're going to look and react to Pat McAfee. He had Chris Ballard on earlier today. We're going to react to his kind of talk with Chris Ballard. There's some interesting nuggets. I'm not sure which one we want to do first, Derek. I mean, we did promise the Matt Ryan one.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's probably the one we should start with.
All right, here we go. I'm going to share this. If you could share mine, Derek.
Yeah, we're good.
As well. We're good. Okay, I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to hit play here.
All right, thank you for that. This is it's a really special day for myself and certainly my son Marshall, who's running around right here, and Johnny and my wife Sarah, and we're all so excited to be here in Indianapolis and to be part of this Colts organization. It's an organization that has a long lineage of incredible quarterback play, starting with Johnny Unitas, an award that I was fortunate enough to win when I was in college and got to meet his family. And it's amazing to be here almost 15 years later, sitting in the place where he started, obviously a different city, but the same organization. And then, to follow in the footsteps of Peyton Manning, who for me growing up was exactly who I wanted to be. And I've gotten the chance to get to know him during my career. And there's not, a better representative for this organization and one other than him. And not a better mentor I could have asked to have had than him. He's been incredibly kind to myself and Sarah. I know all about Andrew Luck as well, played against him, unbelievable competitor. And then, another guy in Phillip Rivers that I had to go against throughout my career, came in here and had an amazing year when he played here. And so I'm very excited to be here, number one, and humbled by the caliber of play that there's been in this organization. I'm also coming from a place that I was really, really fortunate to have been for 14 years. And, I want to start by thanking everyone in the Falcons organization, starting with Arthur Blank, for the incredible opportunity that I had to play there for the last 14 seasons. And it's bittersweet for sure, because, I look around and I got to meet so many people in this building today, and you can tell that this is a really well-run, tight-knit group. And that's one I'm leaving as well. Guys that, men and women that, for 14 years, bent over backwards to do everything they could to help me professionally and also help me personally. And for that, I'm incredibly, thankful and really appreciative of my time there. And it's sad to see it end, but I am so excited to see what can happen here and what this team and organization is all about. And it's a really exciting day for me and my family, and we're just so happy to be here. I thank everyone for coming out. And I suppose with that, Matt, I'll open it up to questions.
Well, that was a very heartfelt speech from Matt Ryan. That's crazy, Derek. Can you imagine being in a place for over 14 years? You pour your heart, your soul into that city, into that organization, and then it's just like something new. That's just like that's something that would be hard for anybody, And so
Yeah.
what were your first off and his impressions there of kind of his opening statement?
Yeah, it certainly seemed like he was very happy to be in Indianapolis. Like you said, it's difficult for anyone to spend a good chunk of their career in one particular team and then just to see them just, give you away like that. I mean, it can be difficult, but, I've heard from people who've already listened to it that this speech is some very heartfelt stuff, some very knowledgeable stuff. So I'm excited to hear it, and I'm glad that he and his family have taken the time to enjoy themselves so far.
Hey Matt, welcome to Indy. I imagine a week ago at this time you didn't expect to be sitting here. From your end, how did the last week play out, and what were your conversations like with the Falcons, and how did you get to this point?
It's definitely been a whirlwind of a week for sure on my end. And I suppose, this time last week, we didn't know, how it was going to shake out. I've never really, throughout my career talked about what goes on in the building. I've always felt like you protect, the organization, the team, and all those things. And, I've also been fortunate that I've never been through a transaction or a roster move, which is commonplace and day-to-day for the majority of the locker room. And so it was a different week. It was a different experience. I thought, I'm not naive. I understand how this business works and that there's going to be movement. And so from the time it started last week until we sit here today, I thought everybody handled things professionally. I didn't like everything I heard, but you don't always like what you hear sometimes, but they, were professional and handled it really well. I knew, at some point I was going to need to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to stay. And as I looked into it, I knew there was only one spot I wanted to go. And there was no doubt that if I were to make a move, this is exactly where I want it to be. And there are a lot of things that have to happen in order for that to go down. And I'm thankful for, the belief from Mr. Irsay and his family, from Chris Ballard and his staff, and Frank and his coaching staff, and also the Falcons organization being understanding of me wanting to go in another direction. And I'm just thankful that everything worked out the way it did, and I'm here today.
Wow. So a lot to unpack there when it comes to everything that was said there. So, he started off with talking about professionalism, integrity, and how things are done and the way it worked out for him in the trade. And so, it sounds like somebody that, again, wants to keep all that stuff that's in the building, keep it in the building. He doesn't like to, gossip and talk about stuff outside of it. It's all inside the building, which is great to hear from your leader. And then, talking about the Falcons, he almost seemed to kind of get choked up a little bit, talking about, about him wanting to go a different direction. Obviously, it wasn't exactly what he wanted to do, but nevertheless, he felt like it was the best decision for him, like he stated later. And then I think the big quote that everyone was talking about, Cody, was, him saying there was no other place he wanted to go other than Indianapolis. Said that if there was one place that he wanted to get traded to, it was to us. And, it's kind of funny to say that because the mature leader of this group now is saying that even amongst the entire fan base over the last week, saying how abysmal this organization is, how cheap they are, how terrible they are towards everything. Yet this guy said, I want to come to Indy because I know that this is the place that I want to go to. What does that say to you?
I mean, that says a couple things. First off, to your locker room, you can imagine how frustrated, your locker room, your players, even probably your coaches, some people were just in this whole process, right? Because it was a horrible last week, right? Because There was so much in question, so much in limbo. Then the Deshaun Watson trade goes down. You still don't have a quarterback, and people are just so frustrated and so like kind of feeling like up in the air, like what is happening? Where are we going? We don't even have a quarterback. And so for Matt Ryan to say that, I listened to this earlier when I was like just kind of chilling out before, and honestly, like it was everything from a fan's perspective that I needed to hear, especially with the parity at quarterback, especially with the Colts the last couple of years, with so many different quarterbacks the Colts have brought in since Andrew Luck was retired. It was what it needed to hear, just a guy that's committed to this city and a guy that, he's going to be committed to wherever he's at, and he's going to pour everything into wherever, it's very much Phillip Rivers-esque in that way, where he's a guy that he's going to be committed, and he's going to be that kind of leader that this organization has been missing at quarterback really since Phillip Rivers hung it up. So, yeah, I mean, from that perspective, bro, I love that. I love that. And you can only imagine how much that spoke to the locker room and to the coaches and just to everybody of just like confidence maybe was a little bit shaken this last week, and like the direction of the organization and things. And to have a guy that says, no, Indianapolis was my only choice, I feel like that spoke really highly to the locker room.
Yep, to the locker room and the organization itself, the people running it. So good stuff. Let's keep going.
All right.
Matt, you alluded to it. After 14 years in Atlanta, had you sort of settled in your mind that maybe you could finish there, or had you looked around and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and things changed? This wasn't your decision to start with.
Yeah, it was not, and I guess, some part of you, for sure. I had been there, loved every minute of it. There's no question about it, and worked really hard to try and do everything I could do to help them win. And at the same time, understood whether it was this year, next year, or whenever, there might be a time where something different happens. And so, you talk about it with Tom Brady or Peyton or any of those guys, they've had times where they've had to transition, and both of them have had tremendous success with that. And that kind of, in the back of my mind, that's what I'm thinking about right now is, this opportunity that I have for, the rest of my career to try and catch that spark and go. And, I'm coming into a building that has been set up extremely well and a roster that has been set up to win. And they've done a great job of putting that together. And I am so fired up to get to work and be able to, get on the field with these guys and try and do my part to help this team win as many games as we can.
Yeah, so again, reemphasizing the point of, that this roster, the way everything is built and set up, he really liked the aspect of it. Again, one of the main reasons he really wanted to come here because he felt that, the roster was ready to go, and talked about Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, guys like that, got older, had some problems, and then went to another team and, continued to do great things. Cody, I think you and I both agree that Matt Ryan may not be the next Peyton Manning, Tom Brady when it comes to moving to a different team. But, if he's got that kind of fire to be like those guys, that's got to make you feel really good knowing that's going to be our QB.
Yeah, he's got – and again, like you don't want to compare him to those guys because those guys are two of the greatest of all time, right?
Right.
But I don't know, man. Like I just get this vibe from Matt Ryan that he's got this chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove something because the dude's been to a Super Bowl. He's never won a Super Bowl, right? And he knows as well as everybody else, right? He's going to be 37 in May. So, like, the window is closing. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He knows that the Colts are ready to win now, and he's ready to win now, which I think makes it a perfect match, for what they want to do. And so, yeah, I love that he's fired up. And the fact that obviously the Colts are going to need some work. They still need to address some positions, be a left tackle, wide receiver, tight end, all those things. But I will say he's in a much better situation than he was last year with Atlanta. And he actually has a running game. He actually has an offensive line. He actually has a number one receiver this year. So he's got a lot of these pieces, and hopefully the Colts add some more for him. And he's fired up. He wants to win. And he's got everything you're looking for in terms of, the mental game, which Carson Wentz did not have fully. And he also still can swing it, man. He can sling it. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited that he's fired up and kind of rejuvenated a little bit, kind of Peyton Brady-esque in that way. And would love nothing more for him. And I'm sure Falcons fans would as well, for him to ride in the sunset and win a championship with this team, because he's definitely got the makeup to do so, man.
Absolutely.
Hey, Matt, welcome. I'm wondering if you can specify, was staying in Atlanta an option? Was that part of this process in your hands at all? And you talked about that decision that you made to stay or go. Can you kind of walk us through just kind of what crystallized it for you, if that was in fact, a decision you made?
Yes, definitely. At first I didn't know, because at first I didn't know if it was going to be, if we were going to be forced into a trade, because of how things shook up. But the way that they did, ultimately it came down to a decision between either staying in Atlanta or coming here to Indianapolis. And what sold me, I was able to have a meeting with Chris Ballard, Frank, Marcus Brady, Parks Frazier, all those guys on Saturday night. And their passion, their commitment, their professionalism, the accountability Chris has for himself and what he does, the empathy Frank has for my situation of understanding you've been in a certain spot and done it one way. Don't ever forget that. It's an incredible part of it. But this next chapter can be even better. It was a really, really cool meeting for me to take. And then I had to sit down with my family and say, okay, what makes the most sense for us? And I just knew with the roster that they talked about, their belief in the players that they have here, the belief in the way that they do things, the time was just right for me. And I felt like I needed to do it. And I came downstairs. I was up in our house and I was in my office, and I came downstairs and my wife was like, you look different, you look at, and so I knew kind of at that point, that was the direction, we wanted to go, and took some time to really think it through and discuss it. And when we did, we came to that conclusion.
See, that's where I think that it's a very underrated aspect that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is, going into that decision, why did Matt Ryan decide to stick around? And, Frank Reich probably did have a lot to do with that, making him feel like he understood the situation that he was in. And, like he said, his wife, after talking with him and figuring things out, he looked like a different man. So, that's got to be great to know that, that they're already having that chemistry, and that kind of chemistry is really going to go a long way for this team going forward, because I think even Carson Wentz and Frank Reich, who absolutely loved each other, didn't quite have that chemistry down the road. I think this could be different for Frank Reich in terms of how he gets a relationship with the quarterback, a guy like Matt Ryan, who has been there, done that.
Yeah. And one thing I was going to say is, look at how Matt Ryan handled the situation of leaving Atlanta versus how Baker Mayfield, who hasn't even left Cleveland, has handled it, right? We've been to two completely opposite ways. The way that Matt Ryan approached it versus the way that we would assume Baker Mayfield has approached it. And what we've seen, they're total polar opposites. And the same is true with just Matt Ryan as who he is as a player and as a person versus Carson Wentz. Now, they both seem like very fantastic people, but I feel like just as leaders, Matt Ryan more is in that mold of what Frank Reich and Chris Ballard are looking for, right? That guy that's been there, done that guy that has that poise, that won't rush into a decision, won't be reckless, with the football, obviously, but just in life. He's very measured, very careful, very prudent, I guess is the word. And that's what the Colts are looking for at quarterback. They had so much controversy last year, Derek. I mean, my goodness, our biggest video on this channel is literally a short of Carson Wentz throwing a football. That tells you how controversial Carson Wentz was. Every single time we'd upload a video on Carson Wentz, it would be very controversial, right? It would get a lot of traction, which was good for our channel, but also it was controversial because people loved and hated Carson Wentz. And the fact with Matt Ryan, he feels very much like the anti-Carson in a lot of ways, where he's just steady. He's not like controversial. He's just a steady professional guy. And I love that. I think that's exactly what this Colts team needed for a team that, let's be honest, I mean, Frank Reich kind of showed it in the end of the year. They didn't trust their quarterback. And now this is a quarterback that, let's be honest, Matt Ryan's probably not going to throw for 50 yards in a single game, right? They're not going to trust him that little. There's that trust there already. You can see it starting to bud with Frank Reich in this organization and Matt Ryan. So I love to see that, man. I love to see it.
Welcome to town.
Thank you.
Leadership has been a big topic around here in the locker room. What is your style of leadership in that locker room?
Yeah, I think, to me, leadership is about serving your teammates. And, the one thing that I've learned in 14 years is what certain guys need from you is different. What each team that you're on needs from you as a player or as a leader is different. You have to get to know your guys. You have to get to know your teammates really well and how they tick and how they need to be motivated and what are the things that you can help them with to bring out the best in themselves. And that's going to be, a really exciting challenge for me, is to try and get to know this group of guys in this locker room, this coaching staff as best I can, and figure out how I work in that and what are the things I can bring into it. I've always believed that you need to be flexible in your leadership, that you need to you need to kind of read the room, for lack of a better term, but you better be principled. There have to be things that are non-negotiable, that you believe in how you do things, how you work, that come through and show through to other people. But I've definitely been flexible throughout my career, and certainly at a different point now than I was at 23 or 24, with the experience that I have.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is a guy who gets it. That is a guy that gets it. He knows how to be a leader, being flexible, understanding that every teammate is different, how you command those teammates, how you get that respect, how you lead them. It is all different. And I love that. I absolutely love that response because I couldn't have said it any better myself. You have to know what you're getting yourself into and being able to be flexible with how you approach people. That's exactly right. And then we know what kind of leadership he has. The clip has literally been going around of him yelling at Mohamed Sanu on the field. It's like, get the F set, and just yells it across the field, and it gets picked up by the mic. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was part of the thing because I don't think any of the indie local media guys mentioned it when I first saw it. But like, my gosh, that hit me right here, man. That's great. I love that. I know some people are going to be like, so what? But oh my gosh, that Cody right there, he could not have said that any more perfectly.
So immediately when I heard him say this the first time, you know what my immediate thought was?
What?
Carson Wentz was not flexible at all.
Yeah.
In terms of his leadership. He wasn't. He was hard-headed, bro. They even said it. Like, he would not change his philosophy no matter what. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. And that was a big reason, I think, why they wanted to move on from him. While they were not wanted to, they were going to move on from him. They were dead set. They were going to move on from Carson because he wasn't flexible, right? And that, to my, that right there, Derek, they said, there was a lot of questions on Carson's leadership. Was he a bad leader? He wasn't flexible. Matt Ryan was flexible already. You can see it. And that's the definition of a good leader right there. And that's simply what Carson could not do. Matt's already showing and already speaking it. Obviously, actions speak louder than words. We'll have to see that, and I'm sure he will. But that is what makes a good leader right there, if you're willing to do that and be flexible with your leadership style, So I love that. And it seems like Matt Ryan's a guy that he's very coachable, very coachable. Even at 36, 37, he still wants to learn new things. He obviously has his approach. He's been a really good quarterback for a lot of years. But I'm sure if Frank goes to him about something that he's never really thought about, he'd be more than willing to at least try it, and be.
I mean, he mentioned it is that, there's always there. I mean, even at, the age of 23, 24, when he still has that, he's had that experience, but, you're always adapting. You're always trying to take in that information. It doesn't matter that he's been in the league for that long. You can't get complacent in your leadership style just because you're the veteran of the group. You have to change and you have to be flexible. And I that's exactly what the Colts need at quarterback.
Yeah. And also it seems like, with that, I heard accountability too. Like he knows what he needs to do as a leader too. He knows what the things that are non-negotiables that he needs to do to be a leader. And, he's going to stick to those. He's going to hold guys accountable, which frankly Carson Wentz didn't do. And that's why the Colts collapsed, and a big reason. Obviously, it wasn't just Carson, but, you need your quarterback to step up in those situations. You need your leaders to step up, and Carson did not do so. So let's continue here.
A couple of years ago, Phillip Rivers came in here and said he was rejuvenated, excited at a fresh start for him. He knew the offense. He worked with Frank Reich for quite some time. What is your take on a fresh start and the rejuvenation that it brings to your career? And what will it be like learning a new offense?
Well, I've had some different coaches in Atlanta. It's not like I had one run there. So I had 3 different coaches during my time in Atlanta, and probably I want to say 6 offensive coordinators. So I've learned some new offenses in my time, and learned how it works best to do it. I've watched. Being in the NFC when Frank was in Philadelphia and what they did there, I've seen a lot of what they've done. But when you look at Frank too, which is so interesting to me, is they morph, right? Depending on how he sees things, the players that he has, and what they're doing. So I feel confident that, I'll be able to learn it pretty quickly. There's certainly going to be bumps in the road. There always is, learning something new, working with somebody new. But I'm pretty confident, that we'll be able to do that, and I'm excited about it. And I think part of that rejuvenates you too. It's that I'm curious, and you always want to learn. And I can't wait to start, getting in this building and working with these guys and getting on the same page.
Love that again. Just hearing him say he's excited for the challenge of figuring out another playbook, which is great. I mean, he loves what Frank Reich does, changing it based on who's available, what they're playing. It's morphing all the time. And I love that he's willing to accept that there's some new things he needs to learn. That was another thing we had a knock on with Carson, was that regardless of anything that happened, he just never seemed to change his philosophy and how he approached the game. Matt Ryan, learning a new playbook, learning a new style of play, learning to now have a run game you can lean on, some guys in the backfield that you can rely on to throw the football to when things don't go your way in your reads, doing those sorts of things. And we talked about it from before, but it just reemphasized it there. Just being able to know what we might be getting ourselves into with Matt Ryan seems to be something that we couldn't get out of Wentz.
And it seems like with that knowledge, now you have an advantage. You continue to have an advantage offensively. Like you can attack people based off of who your personnel are versus who their personnel are. And that was something maybe you couldn't do because your quarterback wasn't as willing as Matt Ryan is to take advantage of that at times and change philosophies if you need from a week-to-week basis or whatever it is. So,
hey, Matt, congratulations.
Thank you.
The last 2 Super Bowl champions led by veteran quarterbacks in the first year with the new team. And also we're seeing more and more guys play at a high level into their 40s. When you see those 2 things and realize the landscape, what kind of confidence does that give you, knowing that roadmap is already out there?
Yeah, it looks pretty good. The roadmap looks really good. What Matthew Stafford did in LA last year, making that transition, playing so well, and what Tom did, I saw that firsthand in division the year before. Hopefully, we bottle up some of that momentum and we can make a push here. I really believe we can. I think this roster is built really well. They're sound across the board, built with, really high character football players, guys who work hard. I mean, it's amazing to me in sending a bunch of texts and talking to some guys yesterday, just back and forth, how much they care about winning. In every one of their first text messages, it was about winning. And that's unique. It really is. And that fires me up. So I hope we can, like I said, ride that trend that's been going on and make it work for us.
I assure you, he probably texted Darius Leonard, I'm sure, from one of those few guys, I'm sure of it. But yeah, talking about how these quarterbacks, they're playing longer, and guys that transition to a different team, the veterans, a lot of times they're having great success with the teams that they're on. And, you know, I mean, we know the difference, Cody, from Atlanta's roster to what our roster is. It's clearly better. So we could definitely see a rejuvenated Matt Ryan to now see him be in a roster that he feels like he can be more comfortable in himself. And yeah, I mean, he's not going to get sacked 40 times, which is what he got sacked last year. There's no way he's going to get sacked 40 times with Indy. He's going to stay upright a lot more often. And, you know, that was one of the many reasons I kept saying, I don't know if I want to even draft a quarterback this year because, you know, Matt Ryan feels that this could be a multi-year thing with him, right? It's not a one and done. It's not a maybe 2 years. Like, he thinks 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you know, and I mean, I don't think that's a terrible thing. I think that would be a great thing to, you know, be able to have him play at a good level for that many years. It makes you feel more comfortable knowing that whatever quarterback of the future you decide to end up going for, you feel you can lean on the back of this guy to be able to still keep your momentum going. And then whenever you find his eventual long-term replacement, you feel comfortable throwing him in there.
You know, an interesting stat that I found, I was listening to, I believe it was the Athletic podcast, was Zach Kiefer, Stephen Holder earlier today, and they mentioned something that I thought was really interesting. You know, Matt Ryan, outside of Kyle Pitts, he didn't really have any receivers, right? Remember, Julio left. Calvin Ridley barely played. So he was throwing to guys like Russell Gage, and I don't even know who else.
Right.
Despite that, the Falcons still had more yards after the catch, the receivers did, than the Colts did last year with Michael Pittman, you know, with Nyheim Hines, with guys like that. That should tell you something right there, you know, that Matt Ryan, despite the lack of talent really around him, was still able, you know, didn't have a great year statistically, but still able to do more than the Colts receivers did last year. So,
yes.
I mean, this guy, I know he's so calm and collected and poised here. This guy's got a little fire, man. He's got a little fire underneath that. We've seen it with that video, obviously, you talked about. But, I mean, this guy, he wants to win. Don't get yourself, like, wrong here. Like, he may be a nice guy on the surface, but he will rip your head off if he can, it seems like. He's a competitor, man. And I love that. I love that. He wants to win now. You know, a lot of Colts fans are saying, and people are saying, media are saying, oh, the Colts may win the AFC South, but they may not even, you know, they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. Don't tell Matt Ryan that, because he wants to win now. He thinks the window for the Colts now, their Super Bowl run, is now.
Other than, you know, talking to Frank Reich before games as opponents over the last couple of years, did you guys have much of a relationship before you met on Saturday night? And then I think 2 years left on your contract. Is that sort of the expectation you're walking in with? 2 years, and then we'll see? Or where do you land on that?
Yeah, I'll start with the relationship first. That kind of is. I know a lot of people that know Frank. You know, that the football world is you know, it's small, and so there are not that many degrees of separation between people. I think that I'd always heard positive things. I had a teammate who was a coach of mine last year, who was a teammate earlier in my career that worked with Frank in Philadelphia, and just raved about him. One of the smartest, most level-headed guys you'll ever be around. And, you know, that's certainly the review I got from the people I reached out to talk to about this. And certainly the review you get from every player I've talked to on this team. So I'm excited about that. I got the chance to talk with Coach earlier today, and he was so nice to me and my family, and so ready to get to work. So I'm fired up about that. As far as expectation to play, you know, I've said from the start, I'd like to play as long as I can. I feel really good. My body feels really good. I still feel like I can play at as high a level as I ever have. And as long as that is, you know, nobody has a crystal ball to know exactly how long it's going to be, but as long as I feel good and feel like I can play well, I'm gonna try and play.
Again, just re-emphasizing the point of, you know, how good of a relationship him and Frank Reich have already established, and with the fact that he says, "Hey, as long as I feel good and I keep wanting to play, then I'm gonna play this game as long as I can." And that sounds a lot like the Tom Brady attitude, doesn't it, Cody?
It does, man. It does. Like I'm gonna play till the wheels fall off. I feel like that's kind of the mantra here with some of these older quarterbacks. And Matt Ryan has not shown, maybe the arm a little bit, but not really. Like the dude can still throw. He's still got an arm. He's got a better arm than Phil Rivers when he came here, and he's a little bit more mobile too. So yeah, I mean, I think he, like you said earlier, like I think this is he's signed for 2 more years, but I think Matt realistically could see himself playing for another 3-4 years, easily. So it really will depend. Like you said, you don't have a crystal ball, but it really will depend on physically where is he at, after a couple of years. Does he start to hit that wall as he approaches 40? Where is he at in that department? So, yeah, but I love it. I love that mentality. I'm going to play till I literally can't play anymore. So let's continue here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've known Matthew for a long time, and he's been a great friend for a long time, and I think you lean on guys like that, on different guys that have gone through transitions, to talk to them about some of the things that come up. I think you can learn a lot from guys who have done similar type things before you, and he certainly navigated it really well last year.
Matt, I know you talked about how this is just kind of come together in the last week or so, but just with how things have progressed in your career and in your age, was this in your mind at all just the past few years about what a possible next step might be or how much longer there would be, or did it just truly all come together last week for you?
I mean, here's the thing, the league really well when you're in it. And so what teams are good and what teams, might not be as talented, what rosters look like, who needs what positions. It's certainly well reported, so we certainly hear about it a lot. So kind of what the situations are around the league. For me, I always said I was committed to the organization that I was with. 100%. And the circumstances changed. And that's just, the reality of life and the reality of this business. When the circumstances did change, again, understanding the landscape of what the league looked like at that time, to me, there was only one place. And I'm so excited to be here. I've been watching, what this team has done the last 3 or 4 years in building and getting better, and really feel like, it was the kind of place you would want to come in the position that I'm in. And I'm really excited to be here.
Just more and more of the excited to be here. Great to hear him keep saying that. Yeah, I mean, just kind of, it was funny. He talked about Matt Stafford and actually talking with him about how to transition and deal with this stuff. Because, yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford was in the same boat just this previous last year, where spent the majority of his pretty much career at one place, and then you give it all, and then you just aren't able to do much with it, and then you go to another place, and then you just wonder, how does that work? What is your opinion on that, Cody, of him reaching out to somebody like Matthew Stafford to get an understanding of what to expect from stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, it just shows, I think, that, he's obviously been in the league for a while, but this is a new situation for him. This is something that, just imagine you're at your job for 10, 15 years, and then you're at your job, but you're moving somewhere, or you do a new job. You'd want to get all the information you can on somebody who maybe has, transition jobs after being there for a while or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he has those connections with those guys, and he kind of can see, and going back to what, we talked about, like Indianapolis was the right choice for him. And it seems like he was the right fit for Indianapolis, and, Indianapolis was the right fit for him. And And so I love to see that, man. I love to see it. It seemed like it was the perfect fit for what the Colts wanted to do and for Matt Ryan and how he wanted to finish his career, where he really feels like the Colts are the best option right now, clearly the best option for him in, potentially contending for that Super Bowl that has eluded him so far.
Hey, brother, this question's coming from Pat McAfee.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell.
Yeah. So he says, Matt, thanks for coming to Indy. You're the best.
I like
What
where
do you-
this is headed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good start.
What do you know about Jonathan Taylor?
He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. We played Buffalo. When I was in Atlanta last year. We played Buffalo late in the season, and so getting ready for them, we watched one of the games where Indy had played against them, and I was like, man, they ran the ball pretty good, against good defense. So let me pop on a few more. Just let me pop on, see what they're doing, maybe on the offense, because middle of the season we're rolling, right? You guys were rolling here, so. I got a chance to take a peek at some of what he did last year, and he's special. I really do think he's special. I think he runs the ball extremely well. He's got great vision, great balance, good speed, good power, catches the ball well out of the backfield, willing in pass protection. I had lunch with Quentin and Ryan Kelly today, and they talk about how he's willing and smart in pass protection. I've been around a long time. You don't get backs that do all of that very often. And when they do, they're game changers. And so I'm fired up to play with them. I really am. Sent him that text message yesterday and said, I can't wait to get the chance and opportunity to play with him. All right, see you a couple more.
No, ain't that just a damn good thing, a beautiful thing to hear? The guy that's been in the league for 14 years telling the local media that a guy that has been in the league now for 2 years, a running back, telling him that I am super excited to get the opportunity to play with you. That's got to make Jonathan Taylor feel really freaking good. And I love that they already are having lunch with Big Q and Ryan Kelly. That probably says some good things about their relationship too.
Yeah, and the fact that he's already saying, dude, this dude is special. Like, Jonathan Taylor is special at running back. Obviously we all knew that, but, for a quarterback is, well regarded as Matt Ryan, he sees it, man.
Because he's never had something like that before.
Not even close, man.
Not even close.
So, for that standpoint, Matt Ryan's got to be ecstatic, bro. He's got to be, so pumped up for the potential. And finally, he doesn't have to be the guy. Jonathan Taylor is the guy.
Like, Matt Ryan is okay with being the guy. He's always been the guy. But to know that it doesn't always have to be on him. That's the big question. That's the big thing there. It doesn't always have to be the Matt Ryan show. He understands that JT runs things around here with the offense because everyone knows JT now. But he's got to love just knowing that a running back is going to take some of that attention away from him. And that's got to be a great thing to know. I'm going to be able now to do some things that I may not have been able to do in Atlanta from the get-go because we weren't able to run the football like they do here in Indy. So, it's great to hear. Obviously, like you said, we already knew he was special, but he definitely had some little extra excitement in the tone of that voice there when talking about JT.
And when's the last time that Matt Ryan has had a legit running game? A top 10 running game. This is Colts top 5, but even a top 10 running game.
Can't remember the last time. I think the last time that they even had a relevant run game was back in 2019.
I was gonna say the last time I feel like they've had a good running game, they were darn good. They were a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
So that tells you how little of help Matt Ryan has had at the running back position. And now that he's going to have a guy that can take that pressure off. Jonathan Taylor was single-handedly leading the Colts to the playoffs last year, before that 2-game, thing at the end. But they were poised really on the back of Jonathan Taylor. So the fact that now they have a quarterback in Matt Ryan who very much can and has put the team on his back, he's not going to have to do that anymore. which is going to be amazing for this team moving forward.
Over here, we talked about this a little bit a few minutes ago, but just with all the quarterback movement the last few years, I mean, you've been in the league long enough to see that probably wasn't like that, I guess. And when you came into the league, this is more of a recent phenomenon.
Yeah.
Just as an observer, what do you think about it? And just does it seem pretty amazing to you as well?
Yeah. My wife tells me that all the time. She's like, you still think about the NFL like it's 2010. It's different, and it definitely is. But everything changes. Times evolve. The business side of this has evolved. The free agency part of it has evolved, and it's going to continue to. I just feel like I'm so lucky to have played during the time that I did and had the opportunity that I did, to have been at one organization for such a long time, to create such great roots there. That was special. But it's also special to go somewhere new and to see something different and to meet new people and to learn new things and to have an opportunity to win football games with an awesome group of guys in that locker room. Like, maybe that's a good part of it too. And it might not have been the case 15, 20 years ago. So I'm excited about that part of it as well.
Again, just more of the same old, just understanding, how the business is evolving, how things are done. He's transitioning away from talking about Atlanta to just kind of more talking about reflecting on how things have gone for him. Got anything with that one, Cody? There's not much to really go off of with that one.
Nah, we're going to keep going here. We'll stop periodically, and there'll be things that maybe we won't talk a whole lot about. Maybe there's more things we'll talk more about. So if you want me to keep going, Derek, just let me know. But, we'll just keep going.
You called Peyton Manning a mentor. What are some of your takeaways from learning from him over the years, and did you talk to him about this opportunity before coming here?
Well, I'll tell you, I remember in Atlanta when we won the NFC Championship in 2016. So it would have been 17, January 17. We left the stadium. We went to dinner, and I was at dinner with my family. We were kind of celebrating. The first call I got was from Peyton, and he was like, "All right, here's how you're going to map out your 2 weeks." And I'm like, "Man, we just won this game, right? Like, I'm just trying to enjoy it." And you guys all know really well of his level of preparation and planning. But I just remember being like, man, he's like a step ahead of me on the preparation part of it, of getting ready for that Super Bowl 2 weeks. But he was so kind. His wife, Ashley, was so kind to my wife, of giving her advice on what we should do in regards to this week and that case, and in different cases throughout, my career. And so he's the best, he is. He's one of the best players in the history, of our game. And I'm certainly lucky that, I've had a relationship that's been strong enough that he would help me in certain situations.
It is always good, people, to have the right people around you. And Peyton is definitely one of those if you're a quarterback about to play in the Super Bowl. That's really funny because, that's one of those redefining moments that, really, that's probably is what stuck with Matt Ryan over the last few years, has in regards to the preparation, is hearing Peyton Manning say, we just won this game. I'm just trying to enjoy myself. I still got 2 weeks before the big game. And Peyton, who's not even like in the process of doing that, is giving Matt Ryan advice. Like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. That's what you need to do. Like, that's funny. It's great advice to hear from someone like that. And that is how Matt Ryan is so smart and such a great player for leadership in that regard, because he's gone through it, he's lived it, and it's good that he's going to be able to now pass that on to these other Colts players.
Yeah, for his mentor to be Peyton freaking Manning, this is just a match made in heaven, bro.
Yeah, Matt, two things.
Cody,
You
just
met
go
with,
ahead
you said
and
you
play
talked with
this through
Frank
the rest of the way,
and
honestly.
Chris Saturday. I assume Zoom.
Yes, it was a Zoom.
I didn't know if they flew down there, or flew you up, or whatever.
Yep, Zoom.
But also, if you look around the way that the quarterbacks have sort of migrated, AFC has all these young guys, the Burrows and Allens and all this, and now you're injecting your veteran presence in there. Do you feel sort of like the other end of the spectrum on that?
Well, it's funny. I played in a division that it was Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and then me, at one point. And I was like, I think maybe 35 at the time when I was doing that. And I was like, no, I feel young. Tom's like 43 and Drew's 41. I like I'm still pretty young. It definitely changes, quickly. But I feel good. I really do. My body feels great. I feel like I've gotten into a space where I know how to take care of myself. I know what I need to do in order to train. I know the support staff here and the sports science department here is probably as good as any in the league. And I'm curious to learn from them as well, but I feel great. And so I don't feel like an old man. I've got twin 4-year-old boys that keep me fresh. Yeah. No, I feel good. I feel really good.
Matt, I don't know if you're a goal guy, but if you are, what are your goals here? However long you're going to play here, team, individual wise, what is on that list?
I think it's to be, number one, the best teammate I can be, every day in this building, and, do the work that I need to do in order to help us win. I understand I'm one part of this wheel, and I need to pull my weight and do my job really well. But it's a pretty strong wheel that has been built. And so, that's kind of it. Be a great teammate, do the best I can, and help them go. And then, whatever I need to do to help the guys, achieve whatever the goals are of, the team. And for me, that's winning a championship and trying to do everything I can, during my time left, to go find a way to get that done. And I'm telling you, you talk to the guys in this locker room just from the start, and there's a lot of guys that it's about winning, and it's about winning big and doing it the right way. And it excites me to be a part of that. But that's the goal, is to try and win.
Okay, thanks, Matt. We've got a jersey right here.
Okay.
Off to the side, we'll just take a couple photos.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
There it is. Don't worry, guys. We're going to have a few of those ready for you in this giveaway. I promise. Some of you will be lucky winners of that jersey. So
Yes.
So I got to go get dinner here in a second, Cody, but I will say this before we pull up the Ballard conference here. I would just say this. I mean, it's truly refreshing to hear, Matty Ice talk about just being a better teammate, being the best that he can be. I mean, a lot of guys, they'll say that and a lot of times don't back it up. But I think Matt Ryan has that level of respect to the point where you believe him. And I think it's truly incredible to have him in the building. And I'm excited to see what this team can do with him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So this one's not too super long, Derek.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
How many minutes? How long is it?
It's like 7.5 minutes.
Okay.
Let
me just go grab a plate real quick and I'll be right back.
All right. Sounds good. I'll share this. I'll start getting us around here. Thank you, everybody. The 313-ish of you in here. Appreciate everybody in here. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Derek's going to be coming up with a couple different things that he's going to be doing here later today that we'll have up, probably one tonight and the other one maybe tomorrow or the next day. Basically, we're going to look at some remaining free agents that the Colts could potentially sign. These are outside free agents, not the guys the Colts currently still have that played for the team last year. These would be guys that are coming in fresh from a different organization, a different team. Just going to pull this up here. Going to share this, get this ready to go. But thank you to everybody who is tuning in. Really appreciate it. We will be just kind of reacting here to the Chris Ballard, Pat McAfee thing, pre or post Matt Ryan trade that he came on today. I believe it was 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've already checked it out. I'm not sure if Derek has yet. but there's a lot of good nuggets of information here that we'll dive into. So thank you, everybody who's in here. Really appreciate it. We are going to be giving away a Matt Ryan jersey. So if you guys have not gotten entered into that yet, be sure to do so. You can do so by either going on to Twitter, onto Facebook, or onto our Instagrams, onto the Instagram at BTJ Pod, and following the rules on there. And also part of that rule, part of the prerequisite for that is subscribing as well. Guys, we've gained a lot of subscribers here recently. We're currently about a little over 200 away from 11K, which is absolutely crazy. So thank you, everybody, for that. I'm just going to quickly now I'll just hang out here until Derek gets back. Hopefully he's not too far from getting his thing. One thing, guys, that I wanted to kind of share real fast is TY had posted something which was interesting. He had just posted, and I'll kind of just share it with you guys real fast. It's very interesting. Derek, I'm just going to pull it up real fast. This is what TY had.
I saw it.
Oops, if I can find it. So basically, if you can't see it, I know it's kind of hard to see on my phone, but basically just like pen to paper or pencil to paper, which maybe means he signed another contract with Indianapolis. Maybe it means he signed elsewhere. We'll see. Or maybe he's just trolling everybody. We don't know. But it was interesting nonetheless. It happened when we were kind of going over this Matt Ryan press conference. So, Derek, I don't know if you're ready for this, but I'm good to go.
I'm ready, man.
All right. I'm going to mute myself here. And
is there more moves to be made? Are you still going to be active? How do you view this entire free agency going? Are you in full draft mode right now, or are you still trying to balance them both?
Balance them both. I mean, as opportunities present themselves, we knew we had to get this settled first. Hey,
you can't sign anybody else without a quarterback, right? I mean, that's something that's real.
And let me tell you something. It's hard to convince them to come here when you say, hey, we'd love you to be here, but Pat McAfee's going to be throwing you balls.
No, they would have came. Hey, listen, I don't have to wear the glove. I got 9 inches here. You know what I mean? I got 9 inches here, thumb to pick you. But I assume that is something difficult that you knew you had to get in play. We have to get a quarterback first before we can pitch everybody else, because your team and building seems amazing. But without a quarterback, you can't do shit, right?
Understood. And I understood it from their end. I mean, you have players out there and they want to know who's throwing them the football. And so that kind of indecision, caused some apprehension on guys, and that's okay. I understood it. But we also knew we weren't going to rush the decision, and we wanted to make sure we got it right, and we felt we did.
So whenever it comes out that, Baker Mayfield interested in going to the Indianapolis Colts, and there was other people that were looking into going to the Indianapolis Colts, do you listen to any of that? Were people just blowing up your phone, like from a bunch of quarterbacks that felt like they weren't necessarily in the best spot? How did you figure out that Matt Ryan was the guy?
Well, one, I don't listen to that shit. So it doesn't, I mean, I don't, you know me well enough.
Yeah.
I don't, we just kind of we just work. We stay connected through the league to make sure we knew what was going on. And then we were able to connect with Matt. After visiting with him, we felt this was the right move to make.
Just a third rounder for that. Everybody's like, hey, they got more from Mohamed Sanu. Mm-hmm. You had to feel pretty good about that when you hung up the phone. You're like, yep, we got a big contract, but we got a less salary cap space, and they're getting a third rounder. You hang that up and you celebrate. And is that why you're complimenting Atlanta right now, or no?
No, we celebrate the fact that we got a good quarterback.
Okay, all right. It's a great deal, though. You have done an incredible job with your trades. Now, granted, Carson was only 1 year. He's moved on for a multitude of reasons and a lot of rumors and everything like that. But you have made moves and you have drafted well and you've paid everybody basically. I think you still owe Quentin. Like, you're going to have to pay Q, I think, a lot of money. You're going to have to pay him a lot of money. He deserves it. You still got a couple holes, though, that are big money positions. Left tackle is still wide open, right? I mean, that is still something you got to worry about. You got to think about. Is there any other, as you're trying to piece this puzzle together, where you're going to spend your money, or is the plan still to build up your people in-house?
No, we'll look at it, but I'll tell you what, I think one of the people that was kind of, everybody just kind of brushed off the signing, but Matt Pryor played really good for us this year, and I think people kind of ignored it.
Okay.
Even against the Raiders, when you go back and watch the Raider game, he was outstanding at left tackle. So we'll give him the first shot at it. We'll continue to look to add depth as we need to, and we'll look both in free agency and the draft. But he'll get the first shot at it. He ended up starting 5 or 6 games for us last year, both at right, left, and at guard. He's a young player. We think he's got a lot of talent. He's a big, strong man. And when we gave him a chance to perform, he performed really well. And it's been fun to watch him work and, kind of buy into what we're asking him to do. So we'll give him a shot at it. And we think he's got a lot of upside, but we'll continue to look, and we'll look at every position. We've got to add some depth pieces. And we still have some players that we think can still help us in play as we go along here. Look, I mean, I know everybody gets excited about March, and I get it. And Super Bowls are definitely won in March. I mean, we know that. History's proven it. So it's you can acquire players between now and October that can help you win. And it's not just a 2-week period in March that determines, the outcome of the season.
Yeah, I think that was the part that everybody was talking about, right? Of Matt Pryor, being re-signed and Ballard saying that Pryor's going to get the first shot at the left tackle position. I honestly think people are. It might just be me, Cody. You can have a differing opinion on it, but me personally, I think people are taking that statement and going with it too literally. I think some people are saying, "Oh, well, that proves it. Matt Pryor, left tackle. There we go. Next season, it's on." No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that as of this moment, you have one clear tackle on the roster that has been proven to be able to be efficient at left and right tackle. You're going to allow that guy to be the number one until you think you have found someone different. Now, me personally, I do not believe that the Colts are going to get someone in free agency at the left tackle position, Cody. That's just me. I honestly think they'll draft one. I think they're going to draft one early, and they're going to allow that competition to be that way in training camp, and then we will see who wins it out at the left tackle spot. But I don't believe they're going to go left tackle in free agency, because if they were, I just don't think he would have made that statement right there.
That's what I'm thinking too. I mean, I think the whole time it definitely should be a competition. Even if you brought back Eric Fisher, which it's looking like you're probably not going to, based off of what we've heard, right? But I thought even if you did bring him back, you had to have an open competition, and Matt Pryor definitely deserved at least an opportunity to compete for left tackle, because he played very well right tackle. He played well at guard when he needed to. Didn't really have any chances at left tackle last year, but he still plays tackle. So I still think he needs at least an opportunity and a chance, to compete for that. So yeah, for sure. I think that I would love to see them to add a guy in the draft. I think that's probably the route they're going to go, because I do think there's a few other guys in free agency that they should go get, maybe a wide receiver, a vet wide receiver, or bring back TY. We'll see what happens there. And then potentially, a DB. So I think tackle is one that they definitely need to address, So, but yeah, I think right now the move is left tackle in the draft, and let them compete for Matt Pryor. And, maybe, I don't know who else you have, maybe there's another guy on your roster that you think, should deserve a chance to compete as well. I just think it's got to be a very open competition there.
Yeah, there's always been open competition. What have we heard since Ballard was hired, right? Him and Reich, there's always competition at those spots. Always.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not any different.
Yeah. Interesting. Kevin.
Yeah, he was saying Bowen saying that Ballard's mishandled the left tackle position. It's very interesting. I wonder exactly what Bowen would actually mean by that. Does he mean that he made a bad decision in bringing Fisher altogether, not keeping Fisher around, not going and getting a left tackle right away? What does that mean exactly? I have no idea.
I don't know who realistically. I mean, you could say Charles Leno maybe, but compared to quarterback and wide receiver, tell me who's really been on the market that you're really like, oh my goodness, if we get this guy, he's going to be our left tackle for the next 5 to 10 years. I haven't really seen anybody. People will argue Teron Armstead, but I mean, the dude's been injured how many times, and he's going to cost an arm and a leg. So he hasn't really had an opportunity because Castaldo, remember, he only retired a couple of years ago. So the Colts, I really feel like the Colts thought Eric Fisher was going to be their guy at left tackle for the next couple of years,
Yes.
And he just wasn't, and that's why maybe he's saying that, but also okay, you couldn't have known that back then because Eric Fisher, I mean, Chris Ballard had that connection from KC, right? So he knew Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was as shocked as everybody how bad he was in pass protection last year,
Yes.
So I would say that's a little extreme for me to say he's mismanaged it.
He had a bad decision. He went to Fisher. He thought he had it, and Fisher just didn't work out.
Yeah. So I don't think he's mismanaged it. I will be intrigued to see if they do draft a guy this year, which I think is a very real possibility because it is a really good offensive line draft from what I've heard.
I'll be honest with you, and this is for a sneak peek for anyone that wants to know. I'm about to do a mock draft video here tonight as well. Just letting y'all know, and you'll be the first ones to know since you're getting early access. I have our first pick being a left tackle.
See, I don't know if I think I'm already in disagreement with you there. I think it's
I will say this, and maybe this will make you feel better. In that same mock draft, I have the Colts actually making a trade to go with it. Okay. So, maybe that'll entice you a little bit. Just wait and see. Maybe you'll agree with me.
I'm almost convinced at this point the wide receiver is going to be the pick if they stay, in that second round in that pick.
Yeah, you would think, right? It just depends on who's there.
It does. Each draft, each mock draft will fall out a little bit different. So there'll be different players that were available in this mock draft and not in this mock draft. So it's mock drafts for a reason, right? Nobody really.
They're subject to change as the weeks go on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's continue here into this.
Do you have any kind of plan for? Now you mentioned Matt Ryan; he has a lot of good years left. Do you have any plan on how long you guys may have him in Indy, or how much longer he plans on playing football?
No, I mean we know we have him for 2 good years for sure. Hopefully it's longer. You never know how things work out in the league. I know this. Spending time with him today, he's really driven to win. He's a tremendous competitor. He's kept his body in great shape. And so it's going to be fun. It'll be cool to watch this thing play out. And I think he's going to do really well. And I think our team's going to embrace him.
I think you alluded to it earlier. You said, some guys wanted to know who was going to throw the ball to him. Well, you need weapons. I think you know that. I think we all know that looking at the Zach Pascal, all he does is catch fucking touchdowns. Your exact words. He's now with Philadelphia. T.Y. is a free agent. Who knows how that whole thing pans out? Obviously, you still got Pittman Jr. and Strahan, I believe, is back off of injury. But when you look at the weaponry for Matt Ryan, there's some big names out there. And I know big name doesn't necessarily mean big production, but the wide receiver, do you feel like there's a lot of depth in the draft? Do you think there's a lot of young guys that you can find and have great success with? How do you plan on addressing that whole situation?
That's good because we got some young players we like here. We want to see them play. That's for sure. Both Patman and Mike, have a lot of talent. We have some other kids that have done some things here, also in the past, just in spot duty. I do think T.Y. Hilton can still play. He's extremely smart, and he's very much a big part of our fabric of what we do here. So we'll see how that plays out. And then there's other players on the market. So we'll continue to monitor it. And, as we go forward, we know we still got work to do.
Okay, he did say they have work to do. So at least he's acknowledging the fact that there is some things that need to be done. But damn, I hate how he continues to keep saying we have young guys on this roster that we want to keep seeing from. Dude, you don't. Okay, listen, you drafted Patman 3 years ago. Okay, I think that his ceiling's limited, in my opinion. Strong, we still have no freaking idea because you drafted him in the 7th round, okay? You're not going to expect much production out of him right away. The only young guys you have on the roster is Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell and Ashton Doolin. But again, Ashton Doolin, we don't know what the offense is going to look like with him, and that's if Doolin even resigns with us. And on top of it, again, Paris Campbell always freaking hurt. You just never know with him at this moment. We hope he continues to work with it. But, you need to get guys. You need to get guys. It absolutely needs to happen, especially now that you just let Pascal walk. So, it needs to be done. I mean, there's no if we do this or if we do that. No, it has to be done.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things, Derek, where I think you're reading too much into it because I do think he acknowledges that. I mean, I feel like he said the same thing about, defensive end as well. Like he said, we have some good players that we like and whatnot. And then when it came to the time, they went and traded for one of the best ones in the league, right? So I think Ballard, he'll say a lot of those things because he's never going to go say we have nobody, right? Because he wants to uplift his players. They do have some young players that have some potential, though. I mean, you did see, right? Strawn had some moments in the preseason, right? You did see Patman had that touchdown in Arizona. So, like, those guys do have talent, right? They do have potential. But I think the reality is he knows that Paris Campbell has not played a full season in the NFL. He knows that, outside of Pittman, they don't really have any answers right now. And I think he understands that. And yeah, I think the fact that he says there's guys on the market, and I'm sure he's going to be looking in the draft as well. And the fact that you mentioned Zach Pascal, I mean, the dude played how many snaps? He played almost every snap for the Colts the last couple of years. So I think knowing that, the Colts are going to have some sort of answer. We don't know what that answer is yet, but I think they almost have to because that's a big hole to fill. Whether or not, we can argue whether or not Pascal is a good player or not a good player, but he still played a lot of snaps for you at receiver. So you still need to address that and get a guy that can do that. So, yep. All right. Anything else on that? Are we good?
I'm good.
Okay.
What was that? Hey.
Wasn't that good?
Yeah, it was. It was really.
Dude, I went in a circle and I gave an answer. I mean, that was probably one of my better ones. When I look back at it, that was probably one of my better ones. Let me ask you this. When Kaylin asked me, are you getting a suite?
All right.
We need to get this done.
So did you hear what I said?
Did you hear what I said? This done.
Did you hear what I said?
No.
So this is what I said literally yesterday. Kaylin reached out, was like, hey, just wondering if you wanted that field suite still. I said, how much? How's the internet? And who's the quarterback?
Well, good. Yeah, internet will be great. No, we got to get that going.
Hey, listen.
Hey, you're 1-0 in that suite now.
Yeah, I know.
You're 1-0 in that suite.
Yeah,
don't freaking be bringing the bad karma and jinxing it. We got to get you back in that suite.
Listen, you got a quarterback, okay? That was right. I've had this hoodie, okay? I've had this hoodie for like a month and a half, 2 months. I've been waiting it's almost too warm now. Yeah. I've been waiting to wear it. I'm like, well, I need a goddamn quarterback before I put this thing on.
Oh, man. I'll just say this. I know that the interview is a lot longer than that, but, it's funny because it freaking seemed like Ballard was like having the time of his life talking to Pat. I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's just Pat or what, but I think Ballard feels a whole hell of a lot better now knowing that his quarterback is now in town. So you're muted, bro.
Sorry. No, he was saying in the extended interview that, and again, if we were going to watch that, we'd be here for another hour and a half or something, but he was basically saying like how you're dang right, I'm sleeping better now. Quarterback, finally getting the guy for sure. So yeah, man. All right. Those are our two reactions to the first off the Matt Ryan press conference and also to the shortened version of Chris Ballard going on to Pat McAfee's show. Anything else, Derek? Any other thoughts from these two things?
No, just again, really excited to see Matt Ryan and very interested to see what the Colts do from here. I hope that, and the great thing is they restructured his contract a little bit too to free up $11 million in cap space. So instead of having only $16 million now, they have $27 million. From the sounds of it, it seems like they're going to restructure a few more deals, maybe. which
like
will up them
Buckner's
anywhere to
and
around
Kelly.
40 million.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, so it seems like they're going to still be making some moves here in the next couple of days. I think you have to. I know there's been a lot of smoke around Tyrann Mathieu, and again, like rumors are rumors. Things can change very quickly, but like our guys at the Blue Stable, they've been pretty adamant that there's some real like traction there. There's some real mutual interest between Mathieu.
Yeah, and I know people have been talking about him and the Cowboys, and I know I've been hearing that, but at the same time, I've been hearing people say a lot of that Cowboys talk is crap. Like he's really not been close with them at all.
Yeah, they re-signed both their safeties, so it's kind of like
so it doesn't sound like they're going to be reaching out to Tyrann Mathieu too after re-signing both of that. So I just don't think I just haven't seen anything. But I know somebody was keep asking about Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean, the talks are still there. From what we have heard from everyone else, the talks have still been there. There really hasn't been a ton of like headway on that, but they are still talking. They are still trying to see if they can trying to get it going, but who knows?
So I think it'll really depend on does he stay with Green Bay, because I think there's a real possibility.
Yes.
Now being probably the number one wide receiver, why wouldn't you? But if he doesn't for whatever reason, like everybody else is leaving, it seems like, like maybe so. We'll see. But there's some real. I think that's a guy to watch out for, though. Valdez-Scantling. I think he would be. Obviously, he's a flawed player. He has his issues, but he is a legit deep threat, and that's what the Colts need at wide receiver right now. Just one of those guys that can take the top off of a defense. So, yeah, there's a couple names here, some potential good names as well for this Colts team. So we shall see. Okay, sorry.
Still need the Colts to do that double dipping at the wide receiver position.
I think they have to, man. I almost think they have to, because there's still some good players here in wide receiver. We know Mr. Real. We know about the TY thing.
Yeah, we know. We've addressed it already.
Yeah, we already talked about it. So I think you almost need to kick the tires and sign one of these free agent wide receivers, and then go draft a guy. And then, and then who knows? What if Paris Campbell stays healthy? What if Patman or Strawn takes a leap? What if Ashton Dillon continues to produce? Your wide receiver core is looking a lot better then. A lot. So, yeah. All right.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Derek, I know you're going to be making, and maybe we'll both be making this together, a video on some remaining free agents that the Colts should potentially sign. We'll probably have that out here, I don't know, sometime tonight. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts on the Matt Ryan press conference. Also your thoughts on the Pat McAfee, Chris Ballard thing as well. Do you have something, Derek?
Nope. I was just waiting for the salute.
I gotcha. You were pointing, so I was like, is there something? All right. Well, that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.